balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. I need to apologize. Last night, I was, Monday, I didn't even think about it. Honestly, I really didn't even think about it. And Monday, I signed off saying that we would see you on Tuesday, rather than telling you that I wasn't going to be broadcasting on Tuesday. And so I posted it on the socials. I let everybody know, which is why you need to follow me on X, Facebook, True Social, Locals. Yeah, those are like my main ones that I post to. But, yeah, the boss has already told me she's docking my pay. Anyway, and no, that is not Mrs. Whiskey. Anyway, as I was saying, I didn't mean to pop it on everybody to, that early. But realistically, it was a family event that, it was a birthday celebration for somebody very close to me. And so we just had to, go ahead and, take care of business. We went to to her favorite Mexican restaurant and so on and so forth. And no, it wasn't Mrs. Whiskey either. But anyway, so we went to a favorite Mexican restaurant, had dinner and that kind of stuff. Yes. And yes, I know everybody here is my family. Everybody here is family. We all know that. All the Whiskey Warrior P1s are family. We know this. But sometimes blood relatives and other family, they kind of have to, there is a bit of a priority level there. And so blood relatives are it. Anyway, so again, I apologize for that, but that's okay. I have got a hugely loaded show for you tonight. A lot of stuff happened last night, that I was going to talk about, but anyway, we kind of, rolled over here. Anyway, and Nana, I'll make sure to put that, I'll make sure to put in that request for your raise, being the unofficial producer. You'll go from a big zero to a big zero. There you go. Anyway, all right. I've got a loaded show for you. I have, obviously, we want to talk about the Virginia redistricting. We're also going to talk about the talk of everywhere today, which has to deal with the Democrat 501c3 nonprofit trying to keep racism on life support because that's how they live, is by racism. And when I get there, we have a horse of a different color for tonight's pet of the week. So let's get things kicked off quickly here. Tonight we have Mama 5 Kitties up. She is over in the green room right over there, taking care of business, getting herself ready for her wonderful recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand. Remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Mama 5 Kitties as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
And, of course, I thank you for that wonderful rendition of the pledge, Mama 5 Kitties. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email. Send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will, of course, get you into the rotation. If you record it on your phone, make sure that you use the share option. That is the SHARE option, or in 3 Chevy's case, he has to use the Sunny option because he doesn't have a share option. Anyway, use the share option and send it off to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. I have 23. I need 26. I'd like to get 26 by the end of 2026. So if you would get them in, I need 3 more. If you would get them in, I would certainly appreciate it as soon as possible. All right, let's get, oh, I almost forgot. Tonight, of course, is...
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
It's Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And tonight, I'm drinking out of the 1792 small batch. Right there. 1792 is a great thing. The year that they started producing whiskey here, apparently. Well, that's what they claim. Anyway, and of course it is in the True Grit Roots Network glass. That's right. It is Wednesday, so it's TGRN night. And here we go with our wonderful first requisite sip. Oh, yeah. All right. Yes, and now, of course, to go on, head on over to our headline sponsor, which is True Grit Roots Network. TGRN.net is our home on the web. You can go there and discover our 2 signature channels, whether it's Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio or Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, and take a listen to one or both. Hopefully not at the same time, but one or both. You can listen right through your browser. You can see right there, you got the little play buttons that you can go and click and listen directly through your browser. Or even better yet, head on over to the App Store or Google Play and pick up our apps. We have one for each channel. So all you need to do is pick up the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio app or the Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio app. Again, on either the App Store or Google Play, you can pick one or both of them up and just listen to them when your mood strikes. Take us on the road on your mobile device with those apps, and we would appreciate it. And I'm sure you would appreciate it too when it's cold out or when it's hot out or when you just need to cover up your head from the sun. There's a shop. I'm flashing the red right up there. You can click on that link on our website menu and approach the TGRN shop, which has t-shirts for those hot days, hoodies for those cool days, and the caps for your cover when you need to cover up your head for whatever reason, whether it's raining, sleet, snow, hail, or just the sun. You got to cover it up. So go over to shop.tgrn.net or click on the link in our menu at tgrn.net and head on over to pick up your favorite, whether it's the True Grit Roots Network logo, the Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio logo, or the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio logo, or pick up one or more of all 3. Show your love for TGRN by doing so today. Pick a different color, whatever. Wear one every single day if you need to. We certainly aren't going to mind. Anyway, go and check it out. TGRN.net is your place to go for the True Grit Roots Network that is based out of Austin, Texas. All right. Well, one of the biggest stories of the day was the special vote that Virginia was doing for their constitutional amendment to be able to redistrict. Now, I mean, get this. This is the Democrats doing their typical Democrat crap. And here's how the thing worked. This vote was basically a proposal to amend the Constitution to allow the General Assembly to only temporarily adopt new congressional districts only up until the 2030 census. At that point, then it would revert. It would revert back to the standard way of doing it. Now, here's the problem, folks, okay? And you have a couple of things. One, you have the first question out of anybody who has fairness on their mind would say, hey, wait a minute, how is that fair? I mean, right now, Virginia, based on the map that they currently have, right now, Virginia is basically split. Almost 50-50. They can't quite make it 50-50, but almost 50-50. And that's how they vote. That's how Virginia actually votes. And so the concept of fairness, you can't get any more fair than that. And so the concept of fairness coming into play with this proposed constitutional amendment, to where now all of a sudden the proposed redistricting was going to take it to a 10-1. That's right, 10 districts for the Democrats, 1 district for the Republicans. That's what the new proposed map was going to be. But the only way for that to get passed or to get through was to go through this constitutional amendment. Now, here's the question. Here's the question that hit the ballot. It's right here. And as you can see, it passed by a mere 51.45% of the vote versus a 48.55% of the vote. Now, here's the question that they posted or that they put up. Now, this, I'm telling you, whoever writes these things, and especially whoever writes like survey questions and stuff, they are masters at this. What they do is they modify how and what they say in order to confuse people, okay? In order to confuse people. And so here you see, should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts, and here's where the funky crap comes in, okay? This is what it says. It says, to restore fairness in the upcoming elections. Now, remember what I said. The map currently, as it sits, is almost split 50-50. It's like 55-45 or something like that, which is representative not only of the actual vote in the last popular vote of the last presidential election, but also actually represents how all of those districts really do vote. And so this is to restore fairness. No, it's not. It's not restoring jack crap in Virginia. It's actually tipping the scale completely to the Democrat side in Virginia. Now, it says, while ensuring Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting after the 2030 census. So get this. The Democrats are looking, in Virginia, they are looking to modify their redistricting in order so that the 2026 midterm elections and the 2028 presidential election goes toward what the Democrats believe is the Democrat side. That's what they're hoping for. And potentially they're also hoping that even if they go back to the standard redistricting in 2030, that they'll keep whatever is going on because they'll already have, whatever votes or, however that ends up going in Virginia already taken care of. Now, what's even worse on top of all of this? What's even worse is the fact that the the Virginia governor, Spanberger, Idiotberger, has signed this mock contract that basically states that whoever wins the presidential popular vote, that's who Virginia's electoral college votes will go to. So in other words, if you end up in a situation like we did with Hillary Clinton, where Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, which is irrelevant according to the Constitution in terms of electing a president, and it was done that way on purpose, okay? But the electoral votes, generally speaking, in all of the states, for the most part, with the exception of 2, for 48 of the states, it's whoever wins the popular vote within that state as to where the electoral college votes go. And it's typically an all or nothing. There's no splitting it up, except for Nebraska and Maine, which actually do split their electoral college votes up. But still, the point here is that all of this crap is pushing toward getting the Democrats in a much better position for power, in not only in Washington, but also in Virginia. Now, the thing about it is, and I've kind of said this a couple of times, but the thing about it is with this is that I understand how this happened. And I've got a video that actually explains exactly how this happened. So if you'll bear with me for a second, let me get this video up. And I need you to listen very, very carefully, because this very wise man is going to explain how this stuff happens. Take a listen.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
But why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
The person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
Sorry about the video side of it. Let me replay that again.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
But why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
The person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
Now, for those of you who are on the audio portion of the program and don't recognize that voice, that was actually a clip from the movie Men in Black, where Tommy Lee Jones's character Kay is trying to explain to Will Smith's character Jay about aliens arriving and staying on our planet. And like he says, a person is smart, but people are dumb. And he's not wrong. People are dumb. And that's exactly what happened here. People are dumb. They are completely dumb. They got suckered in by this, oh, hey, let's do a constitutional amendment. Now, keep in mind, constitutional amendments are designed to be permanent. They're not designed to be temporary. In fact, the only time in our history, in the American history of this country, did we have a quote-unquote temporary amendment had to deal with the 18th Amendment and Prohibition, which was like, hey, we're going to outlaw alcohol. And then, of course, the people who never chose on that said, well, yeah, kiss our butts. We're going to go ahead and keep doing it. And then we ended up with the 21st Amendment afterward, which repealed the 18th. So anyway, all right. Well, here's the thing, folks. Even though this has happened, there's no guarantee that it's actually going to go completely the way that the Democrats think it's going to go. Well, there's a couple of problems. There's a few issues. So first of all, the money, of course, Some of the money that came in, according to this article in the Daily Caller, there is, surprise, surprise, Soros-linked dark money in the elections. Now, the redistricting, like I just pointed out, the redistricting amendment passed with 51% of the voters backing the yes campaign and 49 casting their ballot for no, with 94% of the votes counted at the time the Associated Press reported those percentages. Okay. That being said, okay, we found that dark money groups were backing the successful yes campaign, significantly outspending the opposition to the referendum. The chief group in support of the 10-to-1 Democratic gerrymander, known as Virginians for Fair Elections, which is bullshit. Bullshit, because that is not fair, raised $64 million, with a quarter of this total going to television ads, the Washington Post reported on April 16th. The outlet also likened uncovering the source of the group's money to taking apart a many-layered Russian nesting doll. For those of you that have never seen those little dolls, they're like, they are hollowed-out dolls where you open the big one on the outside and you keep opening and keep opening and keep opening. There's, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 10, whatever number of these things. They're all painted the exact same way, but each one gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to the smallest one, and it supposedly hides a treasure inside. But anyway, I digress. Now, the Virginians for Fair Elections notably took $5 million in from the Fund for Policy Reform, Inc., which is a group that is affiliated with and funded by left-wing billionaire George Soros's Open Society Foundation's network, according to Fox News, citing the Virginia Public Access Project. Now, meanwhile, House Majority Forward, which is another left-wing spending group linked to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and is not required to disclose its donors, poured about $40 million into the pro-gerrymandering effort, the Washington Post reported. So, yeah. The Virginians for Fair Maps, by the way, the group that funneled the most money into the no campaign, contributed only $20 million in total in comparison to the $45 million that was thrown in by George Soros and Hakeem Jeffries stuff. Yeah. Now, what's sad about all of this, of course, is that none of this stuff, if people were all intelligent, and were able to actually research this and understand, oh my God, we really, what are we doing here? Why are we all of a sudden changing the entire state of Virginia from a half and half, roughly, split to a 10-to-1 split, 10-to-1 ratio, Democrat gerrymandered states or districts to Republican? Yeah. Well, that explains it. Because a person is smart, but people are dumb. Well, it doesn't help as well when you find out that teachers, yeah, you know those people who are supposed to be apolitical and teach your students in school, that are supposed to not put their individual biases on display. Oh, yeah. Well, that's gone the way of the dodo a long time ago, if you've ever been into a classroom in today's day and age. So it's no surprise, none whatsoever, that reports have come out that there were 2 public school teachers in Fairfax, Virginia, specifically, that abused their position by telling their students to pressure their parents to vote yes. Now, I don't recall, when I'm being a kid, first of all, I definitely don't recall ever knowing what my teachers' political positions were. And even if I did, I didn't really give a crap. Hell, I barely even knew that they were married, with the exception of the standardization on the word Mrs., or the title Mrs. being used versus Miss for someone who is not married. Anyway, so yeah, there was a woman, I'm going to assume woman, Kelly Sandler, wrote in the Washington Times, said, on Friday, I picked up my 14-year-old twin boys from school. Both jumped into the car and asked whether I was voting yes on the redistricting measure. She told them, that's a no. She then wondered why they asked, as the boys know exactly how she feels about this shameless power play by the liberals in Richmond. Turns out, she admitted, that both of her civics classes that day, or both of their civics classes that day, were taught by two different teachers in the Fairfax County Public Schools, urged the students to go home and persuade their parents to vote yes. Now, let me explain something to you. If you've ever read the Communist Manifesto, or have even heard it being referred to, or even better yet, ever read the book 1984, you would know that the communists used the children against the parents. That is exactly what is happening here. That is exactly what is happening here. And yeah, I mean, this is straight out of a communist playbook for this. These people are not supposed to be influencing your children in any way, shape, or form. Now, Kelly also pointed out that the teacher used the same talking points that were spewed by endless Democratic campaigns, telling that the students, this is how bad this actually is. Telling the students that a yes vote would make the state's congressional maps as fair as they can be. Now, how is that fair? How is it fair that you have a district that votes majority Republican now all of a sudden has been redistricted and turned into a Democrat state? Really? Or district, I should say. Really? Seriously? I mean, what kind of bullcrap is that? Anyway. So apparently, too, another tactic that they used is that these teachers said that they have to stop Donald Trump at all costs. Stop Donald Trump from what? From actually following the Constitution? From actually doing things that this country has been dragging their feet on when it comes to things like, Iran, for an example? Like stopping Donald Trump from allowing people to actually not be censored by their government, to not be bullied and taken over by the FBI? Or, as we'll find out a little bit later, from non-governmental organizations, from trying to keep racism on the track? Yeah. Yeah. Well, even Spanberger was out gloating about the redistricting referendum just squeaking by. How do they figure that voters have spoken? Now, I got to tell you this. Democrats, and if you look at everything that Democrats do, they all talk about democracy. They all talk about fairness. They all talk about the public and the voters have to have a say. But they're not about fairness. They're not about what people think of as democracy. See, one thing our founding fathers really and truly did is they studied the governmental systems of the world at the time that they were writing their Constitution, our Constitution. And they were sitting there and they were basically talking about the different governmental systems of the world. Well, obviously, they came from a monarchy. They didn't like that at all. They didn't like any of the authoritarian rule that was running around in the world of the day. They also didn't really care about the democracy part of it. Because you see, in a democracy, if you have 100 people and 51 vote one way and 49 vote the other, in a democracy rules situation, or a pure democracy situation, the 51 win. And that's how things are. Totally overriding and running over the 49 that all of a sudden have no rights anymore. See, this is why they they went away from a pure democracy. And this is why they formed a constitutional republic, a guaranteed republic according to the Constitution, which basically means that the individual actually matters in this case. The individual and their individual rights matter. It's not a mobocracy. It's not a mobocracy. It is individual rights that matter. So you're sitting there and you're like, hey, okay, well, mob rule. See what happens, and this is what people have been trying to explain to people. If you own a bike and you're the only one that owns the bike, and you have, a group of, say, 5 people along with you, you have a group of 5 people that are trying to get your bike. You're one of the 5. And you vote, no, you can't have my bike. And 4, or one other person votes with you and says, yeah, you can't have that bike. And then 3 others say, no, we want the bike. Well, in a democracy, that mob rules. And that mob rule basically says, okay, well, 3-2. Now your bike is no longer yours. That's what the Democrats want. The Democrats want to be able to say, hey, the majority says we're going to take all of your land, all of your property, all of your possessions, even including up to your time. We want to take it all, and we're going to take it all. And if we take it all, then it is in no way, shape, or form yours anymore. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're looking to do. That's when they talk about democracy, that's what they mean. Well, all is not lost, to be honest with you, in regards to this Virginia redistricting. And the reason why I say that is because the redistricting still has to go through a court. There are still some court items that have to be addressed. Because, see, the redistricting itself has already been to court once, and the judge has already gone and said, oh, well, this is already unconstitutional for a couple of different reasons. Because the Constitution of the state of Virginia has certain requirements prior to allowing a constitutional amendment to be added to the Constitution. Well, Republicans have legal options. So even though Democrats scored the major victory with the voters narrowly passing this, there's actually a potential problem because it's going to be in the courts. So here as an example, and I'm trying to find, Here is the example of where the courts are. So there's already a judge by the name in the Tazewell Circuit Court by the name of Judge Jack Hurley Jr. And he's already ruled against it. He basically stated, he's like, the first passage, meaning the first passage of the amendment, was invalid. The amendment was taken up during a special session convened. Now, this is in the legislature. To get it onto the ballot, it has to pass through the legislature. So the first passage was invalid, meaning the passage through the legislature was invalid. The amendment was taken up during a special session convened in 2024 for budgeting purposes. The General Assembly's own call to the governor under Article 4, Section 6, and Article 5, Section 5, and its governing resolution limited the session's scope. Expanding it to include a constitutional amendment on redistricting required a 2/3 vote that never occurred. So a Tazewell County judge has already found that this action is void. Well, there's also further things like Article 12, Section 1 requires that after the first passage, a proposed amendment needs to be referred to the General Assembly at its first regular session held after the next general election of members to the House of Delegates. And election must intervene first and between the first and second passage. Here, the first passage occurred during an election cycle, but not before an intervening election. So then you have some other ones too. There's about 3 or 4 different things that did not occur properly in order for this amendment to actually be produced or correctly put into operation for the voters to vote on. And by the way, right before I came on to the program, the Epic Times writes this in a breaking news story. Judge rules Virginia redistricting referendum unconstitutional. And apparently the state attorney general says that he is going to appeal that decision. Now, there's no information in terms of who the judge was or anything else, but yeah. Basically already saying that Virginia's voters may have been, had the wool pulled over their eyes on this one. So all is not lost yet, folks. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, Virginia. Oh. Anyway, I wouldn't worry too much about it, though. I really wouldn't. Because I think it's going to go through the courts. And once it goes through the courts, well, we'll see what happens. There's also something else that could come into play with all of this. And I will get to that here after the break. But first, let's talk about freedom. Let's talk about ownership. Let's talk about individual liberty. That's right, with Rumble Wallet. So, banks can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, what you're allowed to say or support. This is all part of the Democrat Party. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. This is why financial independence matters now more than ever. This is why Rumble is introducing the Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. You can buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place with no permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators that you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without any interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet, permanently. Yours to protect your future. Yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom. It's about ownership. It's about protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download the Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. Go to wallet.rumble.com. Wallet.rumble.com to find out more information and maybe diversify into the Rumble Wallet today. That's wallet.rumble.com to go and check out all of the information regarding it. And then, of course, you can download the Rumble Wallet from both the Google Play Store as well as the App Store. Go to wallet.rumble.com to find out more today. Well, there is a possibility that there could be a force of a recount of the redistricting. That's right. Not that it's anybody's really surprise. Excuse me for a second. I got to take a quick drink here. 1792. Good stuff. Anyway. Not that it should be anybody's surprise about the fact that the government has been operating illegally for quite some time. Hang on, excuse me for a second. I happen to be on call this week, so I want to make sure that I'm not. Okay, that one. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Anyway, as I was saying, our government has actually been operating unconstitutionally. And by our government, I mean our government in Washington, D.C. So let me explain what I'm talking about. Okay. If you recall, inside Article 1 in the Constitution, you'll have to forgive me, I have to find the part that it's under. If I recall correctly, it is under I'm trying to find. It is under Article 1. Gosh, is it really on? Under 1 or 2. Anyway, I'm trying to find where it defines the district. And I'm trying to remember because that's the one thing that I can never remember. I know it's in here. Give me just a second. Section. Here it is. Yes, actually, it is in Section 8. So, Article 1, Section 8, way down in terms of the paragraphs, it says that the Congress has the power to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by secession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by consent of the legislature of the state in which the state or which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. Now, it is that part that they created the district. Now, you'll notice there's nothing in that particular part, nor anywhere in the Constitution, that says that the, yeah, it is. It is the leather-rounded corner book known as the Constitution of the United States. You can get this at theamericanview.com. Go to shop, go to their legacy library, and you'll get this leather-bound U.S. Constitution copy. It's a little pocket copy. Great place to go. Great group of people. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. So, the boundaries of Washington, D.C. cannot exceed a 10-mile square area. And when George Washington laid out the district, this is the area that it was supposed to cover. Now, do you see these little orange dots that run from Silver Spring to Alexandria and from Falls Church to, well, there's no place on the east corner. But you see this. This is an actual 10-mile square area, and monuments were erected at each one of these orange dotted points. Each one of these was placed at the behest of George Washington, because George Washington went and mapped this out. Now, here's the thing, folks. That's not what the district looks like today. This is not what the district looks like today. That's how it was originally mapped out. The district looks like this. See, all of the land that was in that lower left-hand corner of that 10-mile square area was ceded back to Virginia because right around the time that the country was starting to toy with the idea of getting rid of slavery, that may not have been constitutionally capable of happening. Back in 1847, I believe, is when that happened, is when Washington, D.C. ceded back the state, ceded back to the state of Virginia, the area that was originally laid out by George Washington to be that 10 square mile area. Now you ask, wait a minute, how does this have anything to do with the redistricting? Well, if there was a path back, and by the way, that handing of that state land back to Virginia has never been challenged in the Supreme Court. It has never been challenged in the Supreme Court. And so, here's the thing. I'm going to flash it back for you. Here's the original, as surveyed and mapped out, the original area for D.C. And here is what D.C. looks like now. If, and this would be something, this would be a boss move for Donald Trump. Donald Trump could issue an executive order reversing handing over that land back to the state of Virginia, essentially stating executively that this is what D.C. is supposed to be. And this is not what D.C. is supposed to be. And if he were to do that, now I haven't run the numbers, But if he were to do that, there is a possibility that many of the counties, like Arlington County and Fairfax County, and potentially parts of Loudoun County, would fall back in Washington, D.C.'s district and no longer be part of the state. And the state itself would have to re-vote because those parts of Virginia, which are deep, deep blue, may not be allowed to vote. Now, granted, there would be some no votes in the redistricting that would be taken away, but there's far more, especially in places like Arlington County, far more yes votes than there are no votes. And with the votes being as tight as what they are, there is a suggestion that if Donald Trump were to do this, that would force the question of whether or not the district, after being created this way, was constitutionally able to be taken back this way. Now, question 3 Chevy says, okay, how do we make this happen? Well, it's actually pretty simple. The first things first is that Donald Trump could actually issue the executive order. Now, according to this, Chad Mizell, who is a former chief of staff to the U.S. Attorney General, a former acting attorney or general counsel of DHS, former chief of staff at DHS, and former associate counsel to President Trump, he basically says that this executive order that could be put out, taking back that land area that was originally a part of the District of Columbia until 1847, that it's possible for him to declare, in that executive order, declaring that the slavery-motivated retrocession unconstitutional, and that would cause, of course, Virginia to sue the federal government over it, which, of course, would cause the thing to go into the court system, tie it up for a few years, or take it directly to the Supreme Court. And the federal courts would have to finally answer the question whether or not the giving back of that area was, in order to protect slavery, was constitutional. Because, again, keep in mind, we had to create that area for the district. For the district, they had to create that area. And there was no way in the Constitution, and there was no recommendation, there was no mention, there was nothing else that basically said, hey, Congress, you need to hand that back. President William Howard Taft actually created that idea, because he, along with some others, argued that it was unconstitutional and pushed to reclaim the land for D.C. And the Supreme Court has never touched this. Now, granted, I think this is a very far-fetched idea. But considering Donald Trump's, shall we say, his propensity for doing things that are constitutional versus what, is thought of as being proper and right, well, so yeah. The legal footing, according to some experts, are saying, well, the legal footing is strong here. He could do this, and he could cause this entire redistricting thing to go into the courts and become a bit of a mess. Well, That's fine. I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, as a strict constitutionalist, I don't see anything in the Constitution that states that Congress had the power to give it back to the states once created as the district. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that Congress has the power to just basically hand it back now that it's been ceded to them. So, That's interesting. That is really interesting. Now, me personally, I think that the other court case, the one where you're going up against the state constitution and the state Supreme Court has the methodology in order to defeat this, I think has a much better chance of actually performing the job. But I don't know. This is interesting. And shoot, I would do it just because of the fact that the Constitution basically says that the seat of power is not to exceed 10 miles square. And it was originally seated and set up in a 10-mile square. The monuments are still there. According to reports, the monuments still exist. So there really could be an argument, a legal argument, that I think the Supreme Court might have to rule upon if it were to go and get this taken care of. Well, we'll have to see. That's all I'm seeing, all I'm saying. Yeah, Jarhead points it out. If the Constitution clearly states what DC's area is defined as, which again is no more than 10 miles square, ceded from the two states, because technically, as of right now, and the reason why they did the DC area and saying that it was not going to be necessarily part of a state, and as you can see in this map, okay, as you can see in this map, it almost resides completely within the state of Maryland. Now, the whole purpose of making DC, across boundaries like the two states is because of the fact that the country's seat of power was not supposed to be connected in only one state, because the states argued that this was going to be a problem because you would basically have a potential where the seat of federal power could be influenced by that one particular state. Which again is part of the reason why, and you can, I believe it's in the Federalist Papers where they talk about this. Might be in the debates, congressional debates over it. But the whole idea was to make it so that the seat of power, federal power, was not designed to reside all within one state. That wasn't the point of the framers. Now, this would be quite interesting. I mean, to go from this to this may not be constitutional. And I would be interested to see this. Because unlike a lot of people who simply believe that, oh, the courts, they're the ones that actually determine whether or not a law is constitutional or not. It doesn't happen until that law is brought into the court system. Then things are taken from the court side. But the court can't just preemptively say, well, no, that's not constitutional. We have no mechanism by which that would occur. And so in order to get something checked by the judicial system, you have to get the question asked in the judicial system, which is part of the reason why Roe versus Wade was 50 years in the making before Dobbs actually did the right thing and put it back to the states where it's supposed to be constitutionally. And this is why we have all these unconstitutional executive agencies and everything else. This is why we have them, because nobody is bothered to bring a court case up to and all the way up to the Supreme Court to decide on the constitutionality of all of these things. So every time I go in with a liberal or a leftist and I basically say things like, well, Social Security, welfare, Medicare, Medicaid, all of that, the question has never been answered whether or not they are constitutional or not based off of the 10th Amendment, because nobody has brought that question to the Supreme Court. And this is why I'm saying all it would take is somebody with Elon Musk's deep pockets to be able to get a hold of lawyers who would be willing to actually ask those questions and put them in front of a judge and take it all the way to the Supreme Court, with the idea knowing that you're not going to get the answer that you want right away, that you're going to have to appeal and appeal and appeal and appeal in order to get it up to the Supreme Court. Anyway. All right. Yeah, I haven't talked about this in a while. Let me go ahead and take a quick break before I move on to another subject. So let's talk about Rumble Premium. Because as you've noticed, Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium. It's an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content that you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout in order to get that $10 off that annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium, use the promo code STUDIO at checkout to get that $10 off that annual subscription. No ads, more freedom, and content that you actually care about. That's the deal. Go to rumble.com/premium, use promo code STUDIO to get $10 off your annual subscription to Rumble Premium. And yes, Bonnie, to answer your question, we do have a Pet of the Week, and it will be coming up shortly. All right. So it looks like the idiot moron, yes, he's a dumbass, and no, I'm not going to play the song, but he's a dumbass. Chris Murphy apparently fell for Iranian propaganda. Now, he claims that it was sarcasm, which I think is a bunch of shit. Sorry. He posted, or replied, I should say, to a tweet by the Iranians. Let me get in here. You can see right here, when Iranian propagandist says at least 26 Iranian Shadow Fleet vessels bypass the U.S. blockade. Yeah, that's false. It's not 26. But Chris Murphy, of course, goes, awesome. Yeah, that doesn't sound like sarcasm to me. Sounds like he, especially considering the fact that he has been applauding the Iranians and begging for the Iranians to win. So, there you go. Anyway. Oh, Chris Murphy's such a moron. I can't even imagine. He is such a freaking moron. Anyway, he got out, or he got a lot of flack from it, including from Sean Parnell, the Pentagon spokesperson, who basically says, first of all, this is false. Second, a Dem senator cheering on the number one state sponsor of terror is shameful. Yeah. Yeah. And then people put up some stuff, and he's like, well, people put up stuff like this, pictures of World War II planes. If Chris were alive during World War II, and it shows a photo of a bombing a Japanese Zero going down, and some Pearl Harbor footage and stuff like that. So, yeah. And nobody, by the way, nobody is taking his idea that, yeah. He claims it was sarcasm, but nobody is taking that correctly. I mean, nobody is taking that as fact. They're basically saying, "Oh yeah, you're just covering up for your ass." All right. Well, Trump has extended. Speaking of Iran, Trump has extended the Iran ceasefire, but he also says that the U.S. naval blockade of the country's ports are going to continue. And reportedly, Iran claims that they have seized 2 container ships, and that it has fired on those ships. But there is a bit of a question as to whether or not that actually happened. Now, people have been asking, how is it that Iran can fire on the ships? Well, they do still have a few small vessels that they are able to move around that haven't been destroyed by the U.S. yet. Even though the majority of the naval fleet, the Iranian Navy, is in the bottom of the strait, there are still some smaller ships that are running around that haven't been hit yet. And also, too, they fire what little rockets that they have from the shoreline at times. So, things are still tense there. Things are still tense with all that. And so we'll just have to see. But apparently the 2 ships that they claim to have been captured were actually within striking distance of the Iranians by going through the channel that the IRGC is paying attention to. And that's why they are able to claim. Now, the 2 ships, so 6 ships made it past the strait. They were hugging the coast along Oman, and they hugged the coast there and were able to get past. Now, 2 ships that were traveling separately, the MSC Francesca and the Epaminondas, whatever that is. Anyway, Iran claims that they fired on them and seized them. They also claim that they fired on a ship called the Euphoria and that it is stranded off the Iranian coast. However, there's some question with that because the present location of the Euphoria shows that it's actually in Khor Fakkan in the United Arab Emirates. So that part about the Euphoria being stranded off the Iranian coast is not true. It appears to have made it past the strait and is in the UAE. So, yeah. Anyway, there is a lot of question as to whether or not the Iranians are actually talking or just propagandizing again with regards to this. So, yeah. Anyway, and by the way, none of the ships that have been taken are U.S. ships. And the Iranians are basically just pissing off the other people, other places. So, Anyway. All right. Well, let's get on to the revival or the life support systems of racism. So I don't know if anybody has paid attention, but the Southern Poverty Law Center, which the Southern Poverty Law Center is a nonprofit organization that is described to I got it. That is its main mission is to go after racism. It's to go after racist groups and things of that nature. Well, the Department of Justice announced that the Southern Poverty Law Center was hit with an indictment. A grand jury has indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center on 11 counts of fraud. So here's basically what the allegations are. Now, keep in mind, we still have to go through the court process. A indictment basically has no defense. Okay. And so, there's no defense there. We don't know what the defense is. It's basically just the prosecutors laying out the case and saying, do we have enough here to go to trial? And the grand jury says, yes, we agree that you have enough to go to trial. Okay. So, anyway, the Southern Poverty Law Center is accused of allegedly funding racist groups like the KKK, and is also accused of funding things like the Unite the Right rally that happened in Charlottesville, where there are good people on both sides BS quote that the Democrats keep calling Trump a racist, a racist for, all came from. So, yeah. Apparently, the Southern Poverty Law Center defrauded donors by raising $3 million to pay informants who were part of white supremacist and other extremist groups. That's part of the allegations. So one thing about these donor and, nonprofit organizations is they need to basically explain to their donors what they're going to use the money for. That is law. You have to be transparent in terms of what the money is going to be for. Well, apparently the SPLC didn't do that. So they illegally raised millions of dollars to pay these informants, according to Attorney General Todd Blanche. The Alabama grand jury returned the indictment on April 21st with 11 counts of wire fraud, making false statements, and conspiracy to commit money laundering, according to the Department of Justice. The indictment covered the years from 2014 to 2023 and alleged that the SPLC paid $3 million to at least 8 informants affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, the United Klans of America, the National Socialist Movement, yes, that's the Nazi Party, the Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the National Socialist Party of America, and the American Front. One of the SPLC's paid informants was a member of the leadership group that planned the Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia, back in 2017 that resulted in one death. Yeah. Basically, what the SPLC was doing is they were fomenting racism in order to keep getting donations for fighting racism. See how this works? They paid people, called them informants, but they paid people to basically push these racist ideas and everything else in order to keep racism going in America today, which 99.5% of Americans don't even think about race anymore. but they're pushing these racist. Oh, and don't forget the fact that the SPLC was quoted by the FBI as part of, oh, these are all the groups that are out here that are racist groups, etc., etc. Blanche said in a statement, quote, the SPLC is manufacturing racism in order to justify the SPLC's existence. Using donor money to allegedly profit off Klansmen cannot go unchecked. The Department of Justice will hold the SPLC and every other fraudulent organization operating with the same deceptive playbook accountable. There you go. These Democrats, they've got to keep racism on the forefront of everybody's mind. They have to keep talking about white supremacy. They have to keep talking about the patriarchy. They have to keep talking about this, because if any of this stuff goes away, they no longer have a platform to stand on. They have nothing to quote unquote scare you or put the fear of anything into you in order to make you think that, oh my gosh, America is such a racist country, or America is being taken over by racists, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Yeah. And as Nana points out, the SPLC put TPUSA and Charlie Kirk on their hateful groups list. And that was a week before Charlie was actually shot. Yeah, they've done it to a lot of other people. They've done it to a lot of other groups. And the FBI actually used the SPLC's hate groups list as a part of their investigatory list of who to go after. That was all under the Biden administration. By the way, Todd Blanche also pointed out that the Biden administration actually stopped investigating the SPLC, actually stopped investigating them during the Biden administration for no reason. They have no idea. So, yeah. Dan Goldman, another idiot from New York, Democrat, he's a representative from New York. He defended the SPLC on X. He's like, the DOJ uses paid informants all the time. Why is it okay for them but not the SPLC? He said that the SPLC plays a vital role in fighting the hatred, yet has been unfairly targeted by Trump and House Republicans since day one. Well, what he doesn't understand is the reason why the SPLC has been funding that is because they want to keep that going, because otherwise they have nothing. They have nothing to keep their existence in play. So, and by the way, Kyle Scheidler, who is the director of Homeland Security and Counterterrorism at the Center for Security Policy, said the issue is not the use of the informants, as long as the informants were not directly involved in criminal activity, which he presumed the DOJ investigation would determine. He's like, the issue is that the SPLC always sought to use its supposed expertise on the right-wing extremists to slander their non-extremist opponents. It's like linking groups like Turning Point USA, or even his employer, to actual violent actors by putting them all on the same list was the political purpose. There you go. That's what it is. The Family Research Council is another one that was labeled as a hate group back in 2010 by the SPLC, saying that the Family Research Council often makes false claims, about the LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign, ampersand, angle, bracket, whatever, community based on discredited research and junk science. However, the Family Research counsel has disputed the SPLC's claims, saying that they were inaccurate and that there was no justification for the false labels such as hate. So there you go. There you go. Well, the Democrats, of course, have decided to hit back, and they essentially have decided on the lie about it. The Democrat lie started with Dan Goldman talking about it, saying that the SPLC is playing a vital role in fighting hatred, and that's what they're going to go in. Now, some things that people need to understand is that the SPLC is not a law enforcement agency. And therefore, the fact that the DOJ, the Department of Justice, that the Department of Justice pays informants and the SPLC pays informants has no relevance to one another. So, there you go. All right, so let me go ahead and let's finish this. All right. Also, one other Democrat organization has some legal troubles that are mounting as well. Act Blue is apparently in legal trouble. Their that's the Democrats' primary fundraising platform. Earlier this month, it appears that officials lied to Congress about vetting foreign donations. And so now Todd Blanche has said that he is looking into those allegations. And that happens to be one of the top priorities for the DOJ. We also know that Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced that he was suing Act Blue for deceiving Americans. So their Act Blue is another one that's coming up. So don't sit here and tell me that nothing's happening when you don't see anything. I'm telling you, this, seriously, the wheels of justice in America turn very, very slowly. So that's why. All right, let's go ahead and get things going here, and let's go ahead and do tonight's Pet of the Week. All right, and with tonight's Pet of the Week, we have a submission by none other than Coco. Coco writes to me and says that, and this is, well, let me go ahead and get this up here. There it is. This is Charlie. Charlie apparently has more white on her face than the other horse that they have, which is called Hondo. I think Hondo has been featured on a Pet of the Week in the past. Apparently, Charlie has anxiety and is a little skittish. Coco's brother believes that she may have had an abusive past, and he has worked very hard on soothing her. She no longer shies away from the brother Kyle anymore. And so there is Charlie. And Charlie is very well cared for. There's Hondo and Charlie together. And I think this is Hondo, obviously, because he was the one with the halter. There's Hondo. And there is Charlie eating. Well, she almost looks pregnant. Anyway, so there's Charlie. a four-legged equine member of the Coco de Whiskey family, even though Coco de insert name here is in play tonight, apparently. So there you go. Coco submitted both Charlie and Hondo for tonight's Pet of the Week. If you would like to have your pet featured on Pet of the Week, all you need to do is send in pictures and a little bit of story, background, whatever, name, breed, so on and so forth, of your pet. And you can send that in to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you in to it. It's a Wednesday night fan favorite for the show. So, and I think with that one, I don't have any more. So get them in. If you want to get in for next week, get them in. All righty, folks, as we wind down, we have a Whiskey Warrior P1 birthday to celebrate. That's right. Tonight's Whiskey Warrior P1 G's birthday. We'll say he is 29 for probably like the 30th time, something like that. Anyway, so as always happens with tradition here, whenever a Whiskey Warrior P1's birthday is announced, G, who is, I think, on the couch, or more often is on the couch than the man cave, but I digress. Anyway, the receiver gets a birthday song sung by yours truly. So, G, happy birthday, and this one is for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear G on the couch, who comes up with all kinds of interesting things for the stitching of the U.S. Constitution. Happy birthday to you. And hopefully you'll have many more with good old Miss T. Alrighty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Happy birthday, by the way, man. Hope you had a good one. That is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor. If you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to give me those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or in the case of 3 Chevy, thumbs sideways, or maybe even thumbs angled across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, and yes, you will see me tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.